What's up, world, and welcome back to my life journey. I cannot believe it is 2021. I'm kind of relieved that the last year is over and that we are moving on to hopefully what is a more joyful year. But a year ago, yesterday, I vlogged for the very first time. It was kind of like the anniversary of me vlogging. I guess it was technically December 31st. But I did this video about a year ago, a little less than a year ago, and I wanted to do it again because I love movies and I love films, so I like to share my opinions on them, and I like to be able to give other people ideas on what to watch, because film is just a beautiful thing given to us by the Lord, and it is something that everyone can experience and love. And hopefully the top 10 movies that I'm giving to you today you will want to go and watch. A little note about my top 10 is that I don't pick movies from the year I'm not picking movies from the year 2020. I'm picking movies that I watched for the first time in 2020. So therefore they could be from 50 years ago or they could be from 5 years ago. Therefore you get a lot of variety and not just modern day movies. So with that being said, let us get started. So starting at number 10 is the movie Ford versus Ferrari. And I watched this over quarantine with my family. My brother chose it. I think I probably wouldn't have watched this movie if like my brother didn't choose it or like my dad didn't choose it. Not because I have anything against it. I was just not the movies that I lean towards choosing most of the time. I'm a girl chick flick kind of movie. But that is not to say obviously I love this movie or it wouldn't be in my top 10. So this movie features Christian Bale and Matt Damon, and the movie kind of is self-explanatory as to what the story is. But I think what I love most about this movie is the fact that this moment in history, this part of history, isn't very significant in a general sense. So it's not significant like the world wars or the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. Like those are significant events that happened in our history. While this is significant in its own way, it's not something that's turning the world upside down, like that kind of thing. But I think it's cool when people decide to tell those stories because it's really nice to hear them and it's very refreshing to hear stories like that. Before this movie, I hadn't really seen Christian Bale act out a character other than Batman and Jack Kelly from the 1998 Newsies. So I didn't really, I knew he was a good actor, but he wasn't phenomenal. And so after seeing this movie, it kind of changed my complete perspective on him. I already knew Matt Damon was very talented, and I knew Christian Bale was, but I just had never seen him play someone that wasn't like brooding, basically, or like he wasn't really young and his voice was still cracking, like that kind of thing. I loved him. He did an excellent job playing his character. I'm not gonna lie, there's a lot of things about this movie I can't remember. I just remember really liking it, and liking the story, and just it telling a part of history that you're not going to hear about unless someone was to make a movie on it, or even write a book about it. So coming in at number 9 is the movie Lady Bird. So this is actually the first movie that I watched of 2020 on January 1st. I don't know, I stayed up really late watching it once. And the reason I watched it was because Saoirse Ronan, Timothée Chalamet, and Greta Gerwig, who, if you don't remember, the last top 10 video or top 10 movie list I made, Little Women, 2019 Little Women, was number 1, and it featured all of those people in it. And so that's really the only reason I watched this movie. I really hadn't heard anything like, oh yeah, this is a great movie. What I do think this movie does a really good job of doing is showing us just what it is to be a teenager and a mom, and kind of headbutting and putting it in a comedic way, but yet we laugh because we're uncomfortable, because that's exactly what our life looks like. I think it's funny how Saoirse Ronan's character and her family aren't very rich, and so like she shops for a prom dress at Goodwill. Also her trying to get into a really great college but not having the greatest grades. Totally get it, totally understandable, and just relatable. This movie I would say I probably wouldn't watch again, but I did like the aspect and perspective of teenager and mom kind of butting heads, but at the same time still loving each other at the end of the day. But number 8 is Dr. Seuss's The Grinch, which I believe was made in 2018. So it is the newest version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And the reason I love this movie. So I ended up watching it on the day we were out of school because of ice storms with my best friend. She was like, you need to watch this movie. It is so great and so cute. And I was like, okay. I usually don't watch Christmas movies like before Thanksgiving, and this was literally back in like November, like the first week of November or something. So I watched this like way before Christmas was like even a thing in my household, like before we started putting up decorations and stuff. But I absolutely loved this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is literally one of my favorite actors, and he did such a good job voicing the Grinch. Another aspect I loved of this movie is they made Max a character. So for example, in the Jim Carrey one, he was just a dog. Like there wasn't really anything special about him, but this time he was really like the Grinch's right-hand man, and I like how they gave him a personality to where like he could definitely be someone's favorite character. He was funny and cute, as well as Cindy Lou. She was absolutely adorable. So I also like how they put a little bit of a modern twist with just having like a single mom, because apparently like when they made that first Grinch, you know, however many years ago, like single parenthood was just not as common as it is today. And I thought it was very sweet how, spoiler alert, just fast forward a few seconds, that Cindy Lou Who was trying to find someone for her mom so that she wouldn't be alone. I thought that was so sweet. And I also liked how Cindy Lou wasn't like depressed about Christmas. Like she loved Christmas. She just wanted to have her Christmas wish come true. And I also loved how they gave Cindy Lou this like group of friends that were helping her trap Santa. I liked that dimension as well. Also, the animation is very heartwarming, and just like every time I look at it, it makes me think of my Christmas living room. Number 7 is the movie Ghost. Now this movie is definitely up my alley. I love chick flicks and movies like Ghost, starring Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg. God bless her soul, we can't forget her. Apparently I like Patrick Swayze because he was also in a movie that was on my last top 10 movie list. So apparently I just really like him. But this movie I watched with my 3 cousins on my dad's side, my mom, my grandma, my aunt, and another family member of mine. And so it's like basically just a girls' night of the story. I think it gives a really unique twist on a chick flick, because really like I feel like this is a movie my dad would watch and he would be like, oh yeah, I'd watch that again, because there was a little bit of action, and there's actually a lot of action. There's also a lot of comedy with Whoopi Goldberg's character is literally gold. She's absolutely hilarious. She is like this like person who proclaims that she can talk to dead people when really like she can't. She just like does it to get people's money and like lies to them, and then all of a sudden like she can talk to dead people and she's like freaking out. This movie was very sweet, and while it did have a lot of sad things about it, I think they did a good job of just like making it funny and also like making you content with how it ended. Like there was a lot of sadness to it, but like at the same time it was like, okay, I'm okay with how that ended. Number 6 is Moneyball. So this is actually another movie quite like Ford versus Ferrari, where it wasn't that significant in our history, but it's still a really cool story to tell. So this movie features Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill, who I think really mesh well together. They're perfect for the characters that they played. Especially I love Jonah Hill's character. Literally made me laugh so much, and I just don't laugh. Like I'll think something's funny, but I just don't like physically laugh. The story covers the Oakland A's, who are a baseball team in, I believe, Ohio. That could be completely wrong. Or is it California? I don't know. And anyways, so basically Brad Pitt's character, recruiter for the Oakland A's, and instead of recruiting players that are like really like top notch, like everyone thinks they're the greatest, he wants to hire cheap players, people who won't take a lot of money because they didn't have a big budget. And so he hires Jonah Hill's character, who's really good with numbers, and sees those who get on, like he just chooses people who can get on base no matter who they are, their background, or how they play the game, just as long as they get on base. And this like really revolutionized how people started to pick their players, and it was just really cool story. And getting to see a little bit more of Brad Pitt's characters, I wish I could remember their names, personal life, and how like his daughter was a big part of the story. I thought that was really cool and a good dimension of the movie that makes you love the characters even more than you already do. Also, I keep saying characters, they were literally real life people, but whatever, it's fine. Okay, moving down to our top 5, at number 5 is Runaway Bride. And I don't know what the original movie was with Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. This movie is super sweet, very family friendly if I remember correctly, about a big journalist who writes about a girl who lives in a small town who every time she gets to the altar would actually run away from the wedding. She always had some unique way to run away from the wedding. And so he's writing about her and really trying to get to the depth of why she does it, and at the same time she's engaged again and getting ready for her wedding, and she's annoyed by him, and then they end up, you know, spoiler alert, falling in love. So it's great story, really funny. I love the small town setting, which is where it takes place most of the time, and each of Julia Roberts' friends just have a lot of character to them and a lot of uniqueness, and it's just something you wouldn't find outside of like a small town like kind of movie. It's a little bit like Gilmore Girls in that, I think, that sense that each character is just so funny and unique in their own way, and they have their own different kind of thing that makes them funny. Okay, coming at number 4, this is the movie Sleepover. And Sleepover is the perfect coming of age movie, and if I knew about it when I was 13, I would have watched it on like my 13th birthday, because it revolves around 4 friends, I believe, who are going into high school, or maybe they're going into 8th grade. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, they're in junior high, and it's like the not so popular girls versus the popular girls in a scavenger hunt doing like crazy things. And there's so many different odd things about this movie that you just would not expect. Like, yeah, it has its cliches, but it also has the things it's like, that was so random. Also, Steve Carell is in this movie, and like you would not picture him being in a movie like this, but he was so funny and it was so great. Also watched it mainly for the main actress, Alexa Pinavega, who I love. She loves the Lord, and so therefore I just like love her. And it also shows a lot of things about just like what it's like to be in junior high. You're really trying to find who you are and your identity, and really trying to figure out what you believe. Go watch it right now. Super clean, super wholesome. Yeah, go watch it. Number 3, getting down to the top 3, Made in Manhattan. And the whole reason that I didn't watch this movie before was because of Ralph Fiennes. I don't know if that's how you say his name. He played Voldemort in the Harry Potter series, and I just could not picture him playing a character outside of that, especially like a love story character. And I fell in love with him after watching this movie. It was like a modern day Cinderella, but it wasn't corny like the actual A Cinderella Story with like Hilary Duff and Chad Michael Murray. Like, it wasn't cheesy. It was something, it wasn't realistic really, but it was like more realistic than that. So has a young Tyler Posey, and he's so adorable. Basically, she's made in this upscale New York hotel, and he is running for, I think, governor of New York or something, and she pretends to be someone that she's not, and he falls in love with her, and then blah 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 blah. Okay, coming down to number 2 is the movie Emma. So I actually just recently finished reading that book for the first time and fell in love with it. It's definitely my favorite Jane Austen book. In this movie, at first I saw the trailer and I was like, this is going to be absolutely terrible. Like, to me it just looks so quirky that it wasn't going to be good. And then a lot of people started recommending it to me, and I was like, okay, I need to watch it. So I watched it and I loved it, and each actor and actress picked for their role did such a phenomenal job. There are so many different characters and dimensions to the story that it's like kind of hard to find actors who can play them well enough to actually make you believe that they can play, like, they are that character. And I think my favorite character from this movie was Mr. Woodhouse, who's the main character's dad, who is always worried about his health, and he's always like, woe is me because my daughters are moving out of my house, the governess is moving out of the house, and like, it's just sad, like everything's sad, like why? And he's always concerned like he's gonna get sick or whatever. I love where it's set. They did a good job filming and a good job with the location. It's supposed to be in this made up village in England called Highbury, so that's really cool. It also has its quirkiness that like literally like you wouldn't find in any other version of Emma, like another film adaptation. It also stuck to the main plot lines of the story. So drum roll please. Number 1 is 1917. So this is the last movie I saw in theaters before everything shut down, and it was a Sunday night. We were celebrating, we had a birthday party with family, and I was like, Dad, I really want to go see this movie. Everyone is saying that it was amazing. He was like, I want to see it too. So we ended up going and watching it and staying up really late, and then I came home and then I wanted to write about it because I thought it was so good. So I wrote about it in my journal, and so I stayed up even later watching it, or thinking about it, and it was just phenomenal. If you don't know anything about 1917, the most impressive part of this movie was the fact that they shot it as if it was one continual shot. The only time that the shot cuts is when the main character passes out, goes unconscious for like a few hours. But other than that, it was as if you were walking right alongside the characters. And it is set in World War I, and these two characters are conveying a message to a general that is on the opposite side of no man's land, which I won't go into details about what that is. If you don't know what it is, just research it. It's a very dangerous area. I actually watched the Oscars last year, and I was really expecting this movie to win a lot more than it did, and it didn't because of political correctness. But the one thing that shocked me the most about the Oscars was that I can't remember his name, George Mackay. He didn't even get a nomination for Best Actor. I was like, excuse me? He definitely deserved it, or he should have gotten a nomination at least. He's super young though, so I'm sure eventually in time he will get a nomination and will probably win because he is very talented, and it made me want to see all the movies that he was in. Unfortunately, I don't think I watched one, although I have seen the Peter Pan 2003 version. He's in that, but I watched that a long time ago. Anyways, 1917 is just phenomenal and genius, and I think it follows a story that you wouldn't normally find in these war movies, a unique perspective, and a lot of the times you don't hear about messengers in the war who played very vital roles, but like you don't hear about them. Usually you hear about the people who are just always in the upfront, generals or private. It is rated R, I will say, for language and just like war in general. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please comment down below movies that you love to watch that are unique, that most people haven't seen. I love movies. I'm trying to branch out and watch more this year, because I'm really bad at rewatching movies. Like literally the majority of the movies I watched in 2020 were movies that I'd already seen. So like it was literally like 15% movies I hadn't seen, 75% movies I had already seen. So please give me unique movies that you like. Comment them down below so I can watch them, preferably things that are already on Netflix and Prime and other streaming sites. Thanks for coming on my journey with me.